Well, I finally did it. After 2 weeks, I think, of this movie being out, I finally went and watched Madam Web. And it sucked. And I'm going to tell you why it sucked right now. Where do I even begin to talk about this friggin' movie? Now, the movie has this theme of like flashing lights. There's a lot of flashing lights, mostly when she's having like the visions or whatnot. But even in the opening of this movie, there is immediately flashing lights in this movie. And it's where her like mom's giving birth to her and whatnot in like Peru or whatever. And it immediately does the like flashing lights. And it is so it kind of gets a little annoying because it happens like every 3 seconds. It's like flashlight, 3 seconds, another flashlight, and it just goes it just does that whenever she has the visions, and it's kind of like really annoying sometimes because it happens a lot in this movie. And the villain in this movie is very weird because like he doesn't do anything. Like, I mean, yeah, he crawls on walls like Spider-Man and whatnot, but and he has like this poison power. Like some point in the movie he like grabs like Cass's like arm and he like poisons it, but it doesn't go anywhere. It's like, what's the point of poisoning her arm if it doesn't do anything? She's all like, yeah, I'm fine. It's like, yeah, you are fine because freaking they forgot that your arm was poisoned because nothing happens to it afterwards. It's like, it's he does it to people, but it's like, okay, like it's not really threatening at all. It's like he's such a strange villain, and the way he dies is so bizarre. This movie, I'm probably going to talk spoilers in this video, so I mean, if you don't want spoilers, click off this video, but chances are probably not going to see this movie, so it doesn't matter. The way he dies is so bizarre because he dies from a Pepsi sign falling on him. And yeah, that's literally the way he dies is a Pepsi sign falling on him. I couldn't freaking believe that that was actually how he died because it was so bizarre and it was so cartoonish and it was something, I tell you. Now, the three teenage girls that are in this movie are Sydney Sweeney, Isabella Merced, and Celeste O'Connor. They're the three like teenage girls that like Madam Web's trying to protect or whatnot, and they don't ever do anything. It's like, what is the point of having them? Like in the visions that Eliki Sims or whatever his name is, I don't freaking remember what his name is, but he has these visions of them in the Spider-Man costume using the powers and whatnot. Like Celeste O'Connor has the spider like mechanical arm thingies, and Sydney Sweeney has like the magic powers or whatever, and Celeste, no, not Celeste. Isabella Merced, I think, has like gadgets or whatever. I don't know. I don't know if she even had powers at all. But yeah, but those are just envisions. Like we never see them wear the suits in present day. So it's like the point of having these suits if they're never gonna wear them in present day. And Eliki Sims or whatever is old in the visions that he sees and whatnot, but he dies before he becomes older. Because in the visions he has the white hair, but in present day he has the black hair. But he dies before he can grow the white hair because of the freaking Pepsi sign that falls on him. So it's like, what's the point of having these visions if they don't come to fruition later? And it's just it's a whole mess basically. Movies, this whole mess of a film. Because I watched Morbius a while ago, like in December I think or November, and I didn't think it was terrible. And don't get me wrong, it's not good by any means, but it's not really bad as people are saying it is. But this movie, it gets pretty bad sometimes because, especially in the beginning, they have like this spider in a container, and when I saw the spider in the freaking container, I was like, oh my god, that CGI on that spider looks so fake because it looked something straight out of the video game. It was like the fakest thing I think I've ever seen in a movie because it just looked fake. Even when like they actually had the spider in their hands and whatnot, it looked more real. But when it was in the container, it just looked fake. It looked so fake. But when they actually had it moving around out of the container, it looked okay. It didn't look too bad. But in the container, dear God, it looked bad. Now the movie does have good moments, believe it or not. There's the like bluish gray area that Sandra Webb goes into whenever she's about to die, I guess. I don't know. It only happens, I think, like twice or something in the movie. But she goes into like this blue and gray area. And that CGI stuff, I mean, it was okay. It looked pretty good, but they again do the whole flashing light thingy, and it does get a little annoying sometimes. And yeah, it was just. And then there's some funny moments too, because they're not trying to be funny. It's just funny because of how ridiculous it is. Like, there's this one dude who keeps asking if he's on the right train or not. And the first time he asks it, it's a vision of the future. So the second time he asks it, it's actually happening in present time. And then the third time, which is technically the second time he asks it, she's like, I don't know, man. And that part was pretty funny. It got my theater laughing a bit. And yeah, so there are funny moments in here, but they're not really trying to be funny. It's just funny because of how ridiculous it is. And yeah, it's the whole thing. And also the way she can like see the future is kind of cool, but they do the flashing thing, although not really flashing. It's just kind of like quick cuts and whatnot. But yeah, the way she can see the future kind of cool, but most of the stuff that she sees in the future never happens. Well, I guess actually do happen because there's like the whole diner scene where they fight and whatnot, and then it's not really explained why. It's just it's a whole mess. Basically, the movie's just a whole mess to look at. And also, Peter Parker is barely mentioned in this movie. Not even mentioned in this movie, believe it or not, because they have Ben Parker, they have Mary Parker, they have like this party thing for like the baby shower and whatnot, and all the balloons are blue, so it's like, oh, obviously it's a boy, and it's like, oh, geez, I wonder what his name is. If their last names are Parker, I wonder what the boy baby is going to be called. And they never say his name. Before they can say his name, there's like a balloon that pops, and it's like, oh, we never get to hear what the name was. So like, what's the point of having a baby if they never mention Peter Parker or Spider-Man? They do everything in their power to not say the words spider and man together. They're like, oh, spider person, ceiling guy, spider people. It's like everything but the words spider and man. And it's like, oh, it's so annoying because it's like, just freaking say the word Spider-Man. Like, you own the right to Spider-Man. Say the word Spider-Man. You don't have to not say the word Spider-Man. It's, yeah, it's the whole thing. So there's this part that I could not believe was actually like a part of this movie, and that was her having to become blind. Because if you guys don't know, Madame Web's blind. That's like her whole thing. So I couldn't believe that the movie was like, oh, you got to be blind by the end of this movie. And because there's this whole joke that Twitter was making about how she's got to earn her blindness and whatnot. And because she's not blind in the start of the movie, obviously, but by the end of the movie, she is blind. And the way she becomes blind is like so forced. It is so forced because it just happens. It just like happens just like that. It's like she's not blind, and then boom, something happens, and she's blind. And basically, the way she becomes blind is there's like a bunch of explosions by the end of the movie. There's like explosions happening like every couple seconds, basically. The whole final battle is just explosion after explosion after explosion. And then she falls into a lake or whatever, and the sparks from the explosion hit her in the face, and boom, that's how she becomes blind, is a spark from the explosion hitting her in the face. That's how she becomes blind. And we never actually see her in the costume either. And the three girls, we never see them in costumes either in present day. Like, we see her in a costume at the end of the movie. We see the other three girls in the costumes, like in the visions and whatnot. But we never see them in costumes in present day. And then she also has this ridiculous, like, shadow clone thingy that comes out of nowhere. Because this one dude talks to her in Peru about how she's got to control her powers and whatnot. And when she takes on responsibility, she'll get great power. Basically, a whole Spider-Man thing and whatnot. And then right after he says that, and that's when the final battle takes place, boom, she can immediately do like these shadow clone thingy whatever's. It was so ridiculous. It just looked so ridiculous. And then immediately after that, freaking villain dies from a Pepsi sign falling on him. And then she falls into the river, spark hits her in the face, boom, she's blind. And it's like, and also at the end, she's like, oh, we're family. I'm like, girl, you literally knew these people for 2 weeks. And you're already like, oh, they're family and whatnot. But it was It was just so ridiculous. I think I'm probably gonna make a video next week talking about this movie and Morbius, which one was better. You're probably gonna know which answer I'm gonna say, but I'll save that video for next week when I do that video. But yeah, there's just more that I want to talk about, but we can be here all day. So I think I'm gonna end it off here, and I'll see you guys in the next video.